Welcome back to Two Wheel Tips. I'm Theron with Camacho Activity Center. Today, let's look at bolts. The bolts are super important on a bike to hold all the parts together. The more you ride your bike, the more you want to check them. Let's look at all the bolts we need to adjust, starting at the back. Back here we have the derailleur. We have a few bolts here on the pulleys. These secure the pulleys into the cage. We have the derailleur bolt that secures the derailleur itself onto this hanger. And then we have a bolt securing the hanger to the frame. One bolt that I always check is the cable pinch bolt here. That secures the cable to ensure smooth shifting. Let's take a look at the other side back here. Back here you have the brake caliper. It's super important to check these two bolts as they secure the caliper to this bracket. The bracket's secured to the frame by these two bolts here. Okay, let's come back over here. Moving down the bike, we have the crankset. This bolt is super important to keep tight because it secures this crank arm to the rest of the crankset. Up here is the seat post collar bolt. When you're adjusting your seat height, make sure this bolt is tight. Moving up the seat post are two bolts so you can adjust your saddle tilt. Let's move down here to the bottle cage. The bottle cage is secured by two small bolts. Okay, now let's look at the front of the bike. We have a lot going on with the handlebars up here. We have the grips. Sometimes these are secured by a small bolt. We have the brake lever clamp bolts. We have a shifter bolt that secures that to the handlebars. Then we have the stem. All these bolts are important so that the handlebar is adjusted the proper way and aligned to the wheel, and it's also secure to the headset. That's important for safety. So that's a lot of bolts on the bike. When thinking about adjusting the bolts, take two things into consideration: the bolt head size and the torque you need to apply to that bolt. Generally speaking, the smaller the head of the bolt, the less torque you need to apply, and the larger, the more torque you need to apply. That does it for all the bolts on the bike. Go ahead and check your bolts to make sure your bike doesn't fall apart. We'll see you next time on Two Wheel Tips.